Tina the minute we walked into the home. They size you up. You know, you bring your past, your baggage, whatever you are, you bring with you, and the spirits know all of that. And so, yeah, I think I think one of their purposes was to break us up, not because we're anything special. They would break up any couple they seem interested enough to mess with, like they did the previous tenants. So, yeah, I think they did that. The less you know, ignorance is to a spirit is not a reason to not mess with you. These spirits love ignorance. So if you don't know what you're dealing with, you're naive, you're gung-ho certain times, that's all strengths to them, you know.
Did you ever get your breaking point and just challenge it? Did you ever do that?
I did that. That was a huge mistake I made one night.
That's a bad.
We were, they had made so much ruckus the night before. I think me and Tina just slept with our eyes open. And I got out of our bedroom and stood on the landing and just told them to cut that crap out. I went into my office and grabbed 5 sheets of paper and wrote on them, telling the spirits, it's war now, it's on now, it's me against you. I'm going to make it my life's mission to get you guys out of here. And I was throwing all kind of profanities and curse words at them on paper, and I taped these papers to the wall. And that's probably at the same time the activity started pivoting from just haunting the house, Tina and me, to just haunting me. Because when I did that, I started to notice the activity is now is happening in the room I'm in. You know, if you're in a room with me, grab a notepad. You're going to see some interesting stuff. If Tina would go to the store, they're really bombarding me. They go to town. They never did that before. If Tina's home by herself, nothing happens. If we're both not home, like we're both at work, something may happen. But generally, it's going to happen around me or definitely in my office.
Now, tell the audience about Tina. What type of person was she? I mean, what type of personality?
Tina was strong. Tina's very strong-willed. She was like very happy-go-lucky, very, very chirpy. She's a chirpy, always positive, spontaneous individual. She's not one you want to ever put her back up against the wall, because then the knives come out. But no, Tina was very, we both had great jobs, great careers. She's a mother. Her kids are grown, though, and they live in California. But
now, was she older than you?
She was really determined not to leave the house on the spirit's terms. She said, no, this is our house, damn it. We're not going to be kicked and run out of our house.
Now,
as long as we got team helping us, we're willing to stay here and stick it through. But keep in mind, we don't know what we're fighting. We're just, we don't know what we're fighting. It's hard to fight something that you don't know what it is.
Now, was she older than you?
No, about a year and a half older than me.
Okay. What type of family background did she have? I mean, anything of that could have maybe transferred over to you and the house?
No, like I said, Tina, we both lived in Washington for about 6 years before meeting. I'm from Texas. She's from California. Both her mom and dad were still alive. My dad's passed away. She comes from a big family. I come from a big family. We're very close connected with our family.
Anybody,
especially our mom.
Anybody in the both sides of the families in the occult, voodoo, witchcraft, anything like that?
No.
She never played Ouija board or anything like might have attracted something years ago, maybe, and it maybe attached to it and lay dormant. Or
no, never a Ouija board. Tina had her own place prior to moving, like I did, and never. I mean, of course, we were asked numerous times, did you ever play with Ouija board? And like I said, we knew nothing of the paranormal except what you watch on TV and except on Halloween. That's the only time we knew. But I had heard of Ouija boards growing up, and the way we were raised, we were forbade to not even look at one. So those were never on my top 10 list to go buy or go exercise or go do. And Tina was the same way. I mean, we were both raised in Christian homes because we're both from the South. Tina's family moved from Boston, and then Dad moved from Alabama to California. So you bring those roots with you, and so yeah, that's kind of how we met. We saw the bond that we had from a spiritual and upbringing frame of mind, but nothing dark, nothing, no blips on the radar. Everything that we encountered in that home was waiting for us when we got there. Pretty much. Once the previous tenant told me, and keep in mind there were families that lived in the house after they moved out because they left in 2009.
So
and
both you,
3 more years.
Both you and Tina, prior to moving into that house, never had any paranormal activity in your lives ever.
Well, did you live
into that house?
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt. Did you live with Tina before you guys got the house and rented the house, or was that the first time living together?
Yeah, the question to answer to both of your questions is, yeah, we never had activity elsewhere, not even close, and that was the first time we lived together. We had been together 2 years, but she had her house, and I had mine. We had different places to where we lived, and neither one of us has had activity, to our knowledge. I mean, I've never had, nor she, anything resembling. I mean, we all lose socks in the drawer, but that's just socks. But never. I can never pinpoint to go back.
I have this thing in my house. My underwear disappears. I swear to God, every time I do laundry, I lose a pair of underpants like you wouldn't believe. I mean, like every single time, and they never appear. I don't know where they're going to somewhere. Maybe there's some fat guy living down the street. It comes in when I'm not paying attention and stealing my underwear, but my underwear disappear. Now, you mentioned at the beginning, you got a book, right?
Yes.
Hello, Keith.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. A question. You mentioned you have a book, right?
Yeah, the Bothell Hell House, yes.
Where is it available at? Where can people find it?
The Bothell Hell House, Poltergeist of Washington State, that's the full title, is on Amazon.com. It's on, what do they call it, the Kindle and paperback versions. Yeah, you can just go to Amazon.com and type in the Bothell Hell House or type in keith-linder, and yeah, you're going to come straight to it.
Okay. Now, do you have a website or anything that, the listeners can find you on and read up a little bit more about your experiences or anything?
Yeah. DemonsInSeattle1word.com is my website. That's where all the reports from the paranormal teams who did investigate the house, I put their reports, their findings, not mine, on that website. There are multiple videos of the house attack, of the bombardment. There's a timeline of all the events taking place on the website, and a little bit more information about myself, the house, and the book. AmericanSupernatural.com, American Supernatural, one word again, .com, is the documentary of Stephen Dawn 2.5 week investigation. January of 2016, they came and lived in the house for a week, and then they came back in April and lived in the house for a week and a half, about 3 weeks before I actually moved out. And their evidence, what they witnessed and what they saw and what they were able to conclude, is told in a narrative, hour and a half episode. But the book itself is going to account for 4 years of me and Tina dealing with just a lot of activity, a lot of the stuff we talked about today, and multiple stuff. We didn't get to, but basically you're going to see from beginning to a so-called end of two couples or one couple, me and Tina, this life has been turned upside down and all in between, because there's a lot of stuff in there. The interesting thing about the book, James and Gary, is there are links in certain chapters that lead you to the EVPs, to the video, to the phenomena. Some of the phenomena within minutes of it happening are included in the book. So if you got the Kindle, you click it, it's just going to take you right there. If you got the book, there's a link to type on your computer or whatever to go to. But it's a very comprehensive book and very detail-oriented. And that's the way I want it. I want to be detail-oriented because there's a lot of information.
Is it like chronicle? Like, in other words, is it an order of the way it happened through the years?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's for a reason, because it's important to know everything is going to crescendo. There's a big buildup that me and Tina are totally unaware of. The activity is happening in 2012. By most people's account, that's just crazy. You never think you would live something like that. But let me tell you, that's going to pale in comparison to what's going to come back in 2014 and 2015. Because believe it or not, the house did go silent for 1 year and 2 months. In 2013, we had no activity.
What do you
Zero.
think caused that? What do you think stifled that?
We don't know. Me and Tina spent many nights asking ourselves that question, because the activity seemed to dissipate around November, December of 2012, and there are websites and books that say that will happen. But they also say sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. You're lucky if they don't come back. But if they do come back, it's worse than before. And when it came back in 2014, right after my fall, it came a few weeks after my weird fall, and it put 2012 to shame. And that's in the book. 2014 puts 2012 to shame, and 2015 and 2016 are equally as active as 2014. So, it's told in chronological order from beginning, May 1st when we move in, up until the day I move out is where you leave off at the end of the book.
Now,
And you had a year. Oh, go ahead, Gary.
No, I was going to say, I have one last question, then, James, you can ask them one more last question. These paranormal groups that came out and did all what they did they ask you to leave the house while they were doing it? Did they have you go into a separate part of the house, like stay in your bedroom while they were investigating for whatever hours or days they were there? I mean, a lot of the reputable paranormal groups I've talked to will actually ask the tenants to basically vacate while they're doing it, because a lot of times that's one way they can tell what's going on there too. No offense, it's a good way to find out if the tenant or the homeowner is faking it, number one. Number two, it lets you know if it is attached to the tenants, if they're not there and all of a sudden there's nothing going on, and the tenants or the homeowners come back and all of a sudden it starts appearing again. I just was kind of curious on that.
Well, there's two theories. That's a good question. The parapsychologists from the UK, Steve Mera and Don Phillips, when they came, they had already done enough research about the house because they watched the Ghost Adventures episode. And I don't know if you saw that episode, Demons in Seattle, where Zach and crew left with nothing. I mean, I can tell you now, they investigate the house for like 5 hours. And they put me and Tina in the hotel, and they did their infamous lockdown. And they got nothing. They said the house was dead as a doorknob. Steve Mera says in his lectures and his years of study in poltergeist infestations, you want the house occupants present when you conduct your investigation. There are measures and steps you can take to avoid hoaxing and fraud and whatnot. And both men did that. What they were able to determine with me being present in the home and always in plain sight of them is there's definitely something here there's multiple things here.